The vast majority of white children living in the city have access to a high-performing neighborhood school. The vast majority of black students have guaranteed access to nothing.
Do you think we're betraying the legacy of Brown v. Board?
Absolutely. We have defied it in every way that you can.
America's schools are the most segregated they've been in almost 50 years. And for decades, the federal government hasn't been doing anything about it. Today's typical white student attends a school that is nearly 3/4 white. The average black student goes to one that's almost entirely students of color. In 1954, Brown v. Board of Education declared that segregated schools should be dismantled with, quote, all deliberate speed. We're sliding back into the two unequal systems Brown promised to get rid of, one for low-income Black and Latino students and another for more affluent white and Asian students. I went to speak with John King Jr., the department's first Black and Latino Secretary of Education. Since being appointed in 2016, he's taken a firm stand in favor of integrating schools.
My teachers could have looked at me when I was a kid and said, here's an African American Latino male, family in crisis, going to New York City public school. What chance does he have? They could have written me off, but they didn't. They invested in me, and I want to make sure that all of our students have access to those opportunities.
Back when King was a student in the 1980s, schools were at their most diverse in history. Integration worked. In 1988, the achievement gap between blacks and whites was half of its pre-Brown levels. No other education policy has ever come close to matching that success. So why'd we turn the other way?
There was significant progress in terms of creating schools that were more racially and socioeconomically diverse. But we have to acknowledge that there were other places where that didn't happen and where there was real resistance.
Parents didn't want Black and Latino kids coming to their schools.
They ain't gonna be in my grandson's class. Not here they ain't.
Some aggressively lobbied lawmakers and brought cases to the courts. Eventually, this resistance worked. Over the last 3 decades, school segregation has come back. The Department of Education was so discouraged that King's predecessors wouldn't even say the word desegregation for years.
The same blessing that saved my life, I want to make sure is available to more kids. Our challenge now is to approach this diversity work in a way that really lifts up voluntary, locally led efforts and accelerates those efforts.
King's plan isn't the forced busing of the past. Instead, he wants to make it easier for parents to send their kids to a school outside their neighborhood. This is called school choice. In this system, students of color can avoid bad neighborhood schools and apply for better ones across town. And white parents can choose to send their kids to more diverse schools than the ones nearby. The idea is that parents can voluntarily integrate schools. But it's not as easy as it sounds. Washington, D.C. has tried something similar, and it hasn't worked all that well.
School segregation is so bad that you literally can tell what school they're going to based on what color they are. Little black kids walking by themselves, you know they're going either to Langley, McKinley. White kids on a bike with their parents on a bike, they're headed this way to the Inspired Teaching School or Lee Montessori.
Natalie Hopkinson, a journalist and parent of 2, has tried to get her 2 kids into largely white schools for years. They switched schools 5 times in 10 years. Eventually, she gave up and sent them both to private school.
When it comes to DC, race rules everything, and it's really depressing to me. The choice system very clearly disadvantages black students because the schools that are high performing are in white neighborhoods, period. Families that are able, have the means to be able to buy into those neighborhoods, have a guarantee they will have access to those schools.
The wealthier, mostly white schools in West DC have a small percentage of seats set aside for kids outside their neighborhood. But the lottery system is extremely complicated, and many low-income parents lack the know-how to compete for these limited number of seats.
Just think about that mother who has 3 jobs. How does she apply for 10 schools, like I did even for my son? Like, how does she go to visit 10 schools, first of all, because it's all during the day. You know, you have to understand how to look at spreadsheets. Even if they were well informed, there are not enough high-performing schools for them all to fit in.
School choice is often used as sort of a euphemism when politicians want to say we want to integrate schools, but it's not the most politically palatable. Why do you think that's sort of a flawed approach?
You really kind of have to look back at Brown v. Board of Education and what happened. White people completely left. They just abandoned the system. So that was the choice that they made. If they keep relying on choice, they're going to be set up for failure because white people will not enroll their children in schools unless they're already white.
I put this challenge to King. Are we putting too much faith in parents?
You know, I think we have to acknowledge some of the anxieties about school performance. And so folks will say, I want to make sure that my child goes to a school that has strong academic programs. I'm worried that merging into another school or changing our school assignment policy will result in my child going to a school that is that offers less. Some of the anxieties can be overcome, but there has to be thoughtful leadership.
For the first time in decades, integration is back. But one has to wonder, if the federal government doesn't force it, can we really desegregate schools? As long as it's up to parents, it's going to be an uphill battle.